Hello everyone, Mr. E here, and today we're going to be taking a look at what I think is perhaps the best Havoc 40 composition. Now this is actually, funny enough, a video idea I've had for a couple of weeks now, and then I saw a bunch of comments on my ranking the best Darktide classes video demanding exactly this video. So I bumped it up in the production schedule, and the good news is here it is for you today. The bad news is that unfortunately that does mean my video tutorial on unlocking the secret Hadron kissing minigame is indefinitely postponed, so I'm really sorry about that. But if you do want to catch that video in the future, make certain that you are liked, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and let's get on with the video. So before we get started, actually, I do want to make a bit of a disclaimer here. Remember that this is a video about my ideal Havoc 40 team composition, and I want to remind people that it is just my ideal. If you want to implement these ideas into your grind for Havoc 40, be my guest, but don't be a dick about it. That means don't exclude capable players just because they aren't fitting the expectations that are set by this video. Especially don't use this video to show them why they're wrong and they're doing the wrong thing. Remember that Mr. E videos are education and not ammunition. With that being said, let's talk about the first class that I am definitely bringing into the composition. And every team composition needs a strong central spoke for the wheel, and the strongest possible class to build a composition around, in my opinion, would be the Ogryn. More specifically, the Ogrynheimer build. Now, I'm going to be using all builds that I have created and put out on my channel at one point or another, and I'll be linking them down in the description. This one, in fact, even has a video solely dedicated to it, so you can go and check out that video and see how it plays. But the reason we are choosing Ogrynheimer as our backbone of this team is he offers some of the most synergies with all other classes that you can get in the game. This character has an amazing ultimate ability, the taunt ability, that can pull threats and pull lots of aggro off of your team and onto you. You also happen to be a bulldozer who can side dodge and shove your way through most encounters. And then whenever things get really tough and hairy and dense on Havoc 40, as it is wont to do, that is when this class really truly shines. So the class ideal, or the gameplay ideal here, is we need to be pulling everything, as many things from the rooms ahead of us or around us, towards the Ogryn as possible into a nice tight formation, and then he's just going to nuke it all down. He'll start out with his Rumbler, and if things get really hectic, he can use his cluster bomb grenades and really break it up. So if you've never seen this build before, I'm going to be scrolling it by on the screen for you to see. We are using the Bully Club with Thunderous and Skull Crusher. This is going to enable our other players on our team to do some immense boss damage. Skull Crusher is a very important boss killing tool, so when we're killing bosses, we need to make certain that whoever is playing the Ogryn is getting at least 3 hits on that boss in order to give them that stagger debuff. And then we're going to be synergizing that with another character, which I'm sure you can guess. The Thunderous blessing here is going to allow us to take down all those lovely crushers just that little bit faster. And then, of course, the centerpiece of the Ogrynheimer build, the Rumbler, with Shattering Impact and Adhesive Charge. The Shattering Impact here makes the burns and overall damage of the explosions do a ton more damage to mixed metal hordes, and the Adhesive Charge is going to boost that damage to Ogryns and monstrosities even farther, and it also just makes this grenade do a crap ton of damage when it detonates directly on bosses. So this is a very good bossing tool, as well as a good general utility and horde clear tool, and that is why it is such a potent class to build around. It not only offers safety for everybody on the team, but it also offers a crazy amount of damage as long as it's sufficiently enabled with lots of ammo. For curios down here, we've got lots of toughness, extra toughness, combat ability regen, and then I've got gunner damage resistance on there. You could swap out some of that toughness there. You could swap all of that toughness for revive speed, would be very potent. In fact, if you're playing with a coherent team, I think revive speed is probably among the best things you can take on a curio. Look out for a updated curio video coming out soon, by the way, because I have some ideas that have been evolving on this. But here's the talent tree for you if you've never seen it before. would just, rather than me explaining it all here, I would just go and check out the video specifically around this build. It is a little bit of a complex build, but it has so many synergies with other classes. It has this ultimate that can provide 25% extra base damage to all enemies that are taunted. It gets the taunt back very, very quickly, so we can boost the damage on everybody near us to absurd levels, and then we can do an absurd level of damage ourselves. So an incredibly, incredibly strong build, and it's the centerpiece. It is the core, the foundation of this composition, which I am going to be calling EXODIA comp. That is the first piece of the puzzle. Now, the next part of this thought experiment is something I actually belabored over for a long time, which is, does the best composition have duplicates of any one class? Is there maybe 2 Ogryns, 2 Arbites, 2 Zealots? I think those would be the likely choices. I ultimately ended up deciding that there would be 4 different classes in this composition, because I think that each of the 4 classes included do bring something to the table. Unfortunately, that does mean that there's only one class that gets left out, and for this little experiment, that is going to be the Psyker. Now, the Psyker, as you might have noticed in my class ranking video, is not my weakest choice for the class, but it is the class that would have the least synergy with the rest of the team here, and is the least essential. So I ended up having to bump the Psyker for the Veteran. Now, the Veteran is playing a really simple role, and my complaint about him when I was ranking him as the weakest character in the game right now was that he only serves 2 purposes, right? If you remember what those were, they were printing gold toughness and printing ammo, and that is why we have the Veteran here, more or less. So let's take a look at this build. I'm calling this one Mr. E's EXODIA Vet. You can find all these builds linked in the description again, and they're on Games Lantern. We are using the Recon Lasgun with this build. You're welcome to use anything that you please. Well, I mean, your choices are Recon Lasgun or Plasma Gun if you're really going for meta pushing. But this one, the Recon Lasgun, is going to allow us to push some pretty decent boss damage, which can be good to have a nice trickle of boss damage on larger targets. And we're also using the Macabian Dueling Sword, because why the hell not? It allows us to punch through crushers and contribute to getting rid of mixed metal hordes. But the really important thing about using the Recon Lasgun here is it can apply lots of debuffs to enemies that will ultimately stack up and increase our team's damage as well. For Curios, I'm using toughnesses with combat ability regen, so we're getting those shouts up quicker. Revive speed, 3 revive speeds, so that we can pick up people when we shout. Rather than choosing the node that makes our ultimate worse, what we can do is shout and pick someone up during the stagger animation, because that revive is so quick. Coming down here, it's a pretty standard Veteran setup using Shredder frag grenades, and the cool thing is that this Veteran is going to be the only other grenade user on the team outside of the Ogryn, and because he prints his own grenades, we don't really have to rely on picking up packs for this Veteran. So he can leave all the grenades to the Ogryn, who obviously gets a huge efficacy out of using those cluster bomb grenades when you're playing Ogrynheimer. We're obviously using Survivalist and Voice of Command. This is going to be pumping that ammo to the Ogryn, and we are also, since we're playing the only other primary ranged character on the team, we are using the Lasgun with Shock Trooper, which is going to mean our ammo supply is absolutely pristine. We're going to be using so little ammo as compared to other Veteran builds and other ranged focus builds in the game that we can leave almost all of it for the big boy to pick up, and that means that he's going to be able to dump dozens and dozens and dozens of grenades every encounter throughout the mission, which is mission critical, is bombing the hell out of everything. The most important part to note is down here, aside from Shock Trooper, we also have Onslaught, which is going to apply brittleness to enemies that are targeted. This allows you to burn down higher health targets. It even increases boss damage like a little bit, but the really important thing for increasing our boss damage is Focus Target. Focus Target is a great ability, especially when you're playing with a coherent team. This is going to give the enemies that are tagged 20% additional damage taken, which obviously adds on with every other source of increased damage taken. This is going to allow us to pop bosses, captains, all that stuff, no problem. And yeah, that's a really, really nice additive effect, and it's one of the things that the Veteran can bring to the table for team play. So that is the Veteran's contribution. It's really, really simple. If I were to say like how skilled you have to be to play this Veteran well, I would say this is probably the second least skilled player on the team should probably be assigned to the veteran because the veteran is pretty dang easy to play, though not as easy as our next piece of the puzzle, and that is, of course, the Chorus Zealot. The Chorus Zealot is the strongest support-focused character in the game. He buffs not only your team's health, but he puts all the enemies on pause, and of course he increases your team's damage with the way we have him set up, so he's absolutely vital. And this is a build that, you know, maybe if you're not the best Havoc player in the world, this would be a great role for you to be on in the team, because it's honestly not all that bad if it's not played perfectly optimally. You might miss out on 20-25% ultimates compared to someone who's playing much more optimally, but you'll still be contributing heftily by just having Chorus with some regularity. Now, the dueling sword is our melee weapon of choice here because it can get good crits with melee crit chance and riposte on the blessing, but also it has the uncanny strike to allow us to penetrate through crushers and contribute to damage on metal hordes. The spearhead bolt gun is just here so you can mag dump for bosses. You don't want to be lingering on your range weapon for too long. We need to be spending at least 95% of our time getting melee kills, backstab kills specifically, and getting crits with our melee weapon in order to keep our cooldown very, very low. For our curios, toughness on 2, stamina on 1. We do need some stamina. That's why we have stamina regeneration on this build. It's so that we can move around the arena much more quickly. That's going to, be important to have stamina to sprint and slide and all that stuff. Revive speed is also really nice here because we can secure a body. We can stand over someone who's downed and then get them up really quickly as soon as our chorus ends or as soon as we cancel our chorus. That can be a really tricky thing to do without that revive speed. And of course, combat ability regen is going to cut a good number of seconds, I think like 8 seconds or so off of our ultimate, which is very important. Coming down this way, we use the normal Zealot pathing, but look, we go in the middle tree for Beacon of Purity. Beacon of Purity is an awesome support aura, especially in Havoc, because all melee hits apply corruption. There's corrupting effects in the environment, like standing in Beast of Nurgle trails. If it's ever green goop time, you know what build to bring it out, right? This removing corruption does make all of your health kits more effective on the team, and keeps your team from maybe entering into a situation where they lose a down for no reason. Because remember, if you get enough corruption that it goes over one of your down markers, one of your wounds, then you just lose 1 life. So we need to keep our team having as many lives as possible, even if they don't have that much health. Over here we've got our basically our insurance policy until death and Holy Revenant. This allows us to play with reckless abandon. We don't have to worry about dying because we can't. We have 5 seconds to just kind of fuck off if something really bad happens, and during that time, if something bad does happen, you just use your chorus and run out of there. Chorus is an awesome ability. It has a 60-second cooldown, but we're going to be lowering that to like 15 seconds or so, utilizing our talent tree here and some sufficient skill. And Ecclesiarch's Call is going to give our team 30% extra damage when we pulse for 5 times. So on that 5th pulse, it gives you 30% damage, and it refreshes it on the 6th and 7th pulses. So we actually get more than 10 seconds of buff damage out of this, and that means that not only does our team get this damage, but we do. So this is a huge DPS increase and can be utilized to melt bosses and monstrosities and all that stuff. Great talent. Coming down the left side here, we have Blazing Piety for extra crit chance, but more importantly, we have Invocation of Death, and this is where a lot of our cooldown comes from. We can get triple cooldown regeneration for 4 seconds every time we get a melee crit. And then over here on the right side, we have Pious Cutthroat, which every time we get a backstab kill, we cut 12 seconds off of our ultimate cooldown, which is absolutely massive. So what we need to be doing when we're playing this class is utilizing our chorus as often as possible. And then during the chorus, you should be walking through the enemies and looking for an enemy who is facing towards one of your allies instead of you. And then as soon as you're done with that chorus, just stab them in the back of the head. Stab a trapper, stab a flamer, stab a shotgunner, all those enemies that will die in 1 hit. That's who you need to be lining up to get a free kill on and get 12 seconds, cut off your cooldown immediately. And this is where some really nice synergies with the rest of the group come into play, because of course we have a Taunt Ogryn, and the Taunt Ogryn is going to make certain all enemies are rushing towards him. So you should be facing this towards your Taunt Ogryn so that enemies are facing away from you, and then you can backstab them all for absolutely free. And do not delay using that chorus. As soon as you get it, utilize it and start working on that next cooldown. The other really important thing about this class is that you are the line leader. You are the first into the room, because the first person into the room needs to suppress all the enemies, and that is what the chorus does. So you run out, usually you sprint slide into the room, and then you start using the chorus, and all the ranged enemies in the room you should be trying to walk towards them and use that chorus to suppress them. And then here comes your team. They come in behind and they start to clean up everything while they're in disarray. And during that time, you should be looking to get some backstab hits and some crits to get that cooldown back, and then the next cooldown will be back before you know it, and you can rinse and repeat when the reinforcements show up. And that's the whole role of the support zealot. Finally, it's the Arbites, of course. The Arbites is so strong, he couldn't not be included in this group, and his role in this group is to be the primary melee damage dealer, and also to provide, general class utility as well as synergize with that Ogryn. So we want to make certain our melee strength is as strong as possible. So we are choosing that Arbites Shock Maul with Unyielding and Carapace on here. So we have pretty decent damage into the high health targets with Relentless and High Voltage. We're choosing the Exterminator Shotgun here because we are going to be a sniper for specials and elites. Since we are Ogryn, we don't want him to have to waste his rumbler shots on individual targets. We can pick those off for him. And of course you have your veteran to pick those off too. This is also an incredibly ammo efficient weapon. You don't really have to use that much ammo at all. With the veteran at your side, you might not even have to pick up one reload the entire game long. For Curios, all toughness, all combat ability regen, all revive speed, and then 2 gunner and 1 bomber resistance. This is the build that I chose to go with this time. It is a support-focused dog-using build, and that is because I think that the dog has some really, really nice blessings it can provide to just generally the whole team, and let's kind of explore that a little bit. First of all, we, of course, are using remote detonation. This removes the onus of grenades off of the rest of our team. They can give all the grenades to the Ogryn now because we don't need grenades anymore. So that's a really, really nice synergy we get. The Blitz detonation is a very potent stagger. It can be used to get your teammates out of quite a pickle, so make certain your dog is in the right position first. Over here on the left side, Voltaic Mandibles is an awesome 1-point pickup that allows our dog to permanently shock any enemy that he hits, and that can open up really troublesome enemies like bulwarks, maybe like purple healing bulwarks for elimination. And then off of that, we have Imposing Force and Canine Morale. Canine Morale is one of the best team play augments that the Arbites has access to. Gives all your allies in coherency 20% toughness damage reduction for 5 seconds anytime your dog kills a pounce target or you kill a pounce target, which is often, very, very often. So that is very, very potent. Of course, Concussive over here, Concussive plus our Breaking Descent aura here are going to enable us to open up the boss for massive, massive damage. So when a boss emerges, what you should be doing is you should be running up and hitting the boss in the head. Just repeatedly wail him in the head. And that's your whole role as the Arbites. At the same time, the Ogryn is also going to get a couple of stacks of Skull Crusher in using his melee weapon before swapping to his ranged weapon, his Rumbler, and shooting the Rumblers directly into the boss. And of course, you can also be using Chorus at the same time to make certain the boss is completely helpless and held into the corner. And that is all you need to do. Oh, and focus targets on the boss too, right? Bosses should fall like dominoes before this composition. Down here we've got the dog focusing on ranged enemies, which means that we are going to have to worry less about those scattered small gunners that are probably the scariest potential enemy for this composition. Since we have both the Arbites and the veteran on lookout for specials, I didn't want the dog to go around stealing special kills, especially stealing away from the veteran who needs those for his ultimate cooldown. So we want to kind of let the veteran do his job there, helping when we can, but primarily our job is to get rid of those scattered small gunners using the dog, using our gun, using our just melee prowess in general. And then we have the Nuncio Aquila. The Nuncio Aquila is an excellent, excellent tool, and it was a real hard decision to pick which one of these would be the best for the build. I think that Nuncio wins out here because it is just such a strong team play ability. Now, if you are playing, solo games, the other two become very, very viable as well, but Nuncio is super strong when you're playing with a comp, whether you're playing with a team that knows what they're doing, because if they can hold the position where you lay the Nuncio down or call to what position position they want the Nuncio in and then hold there, you're getting a huge benefit out of it. Obviously, you have that trickling toughness per second. You have an increased damage taken to enemies within the circle, which means you can burst down bosses and captains and all that stuff in the zone. And of course, with Inspiring Recitation here, we get additional toughness damage reduction and 30% more revive speed. So if you ever have a situation where revive is difficult but not impossible, you can drop this thing down and then you'll have an additional 66 or just about 60% revive speed in order to pick that ally up in like 1 second, which can make a huge difference in terms of turning the tide of a combat. You do not want to let your teammates die. You want to keep all the pieces of EXODIA alive, right? Down here on the left side, this is currently bugged as of the time of publishing this video, but Execution Order is going to give us all of our cooldown back with Mallocator and Efficient Killer. So we are going to be getting lots of crits, and also we're going to be keeping our cooldowns low. So the cooldown on Nuncio will probably end up being somewhere closer to around 40 seconds-ish, depending on your uptime on Mallocator. We're also taking Rebreather over here. This is your flex point. You can put this anywhere you really want, but I think Rebreather is a great quality of life talent because it allows you to wade into Tox Gas and get rid of enemies. Oftentimes, those Tox Bombers love to hide in their own fart clouds, and they can be a real pain for other people on the team. This is a great 1-point pickup that allows you to not only nullify Tox Gas, but you can also walk on the ranged twins mines if you get the twins encounter and just completely disable them, which makes that so much of a better encounter. Over here on the right side, we use the little Triforce, the trident sort of shape here with Target the Weak, which is going to enable additional melee damage taken by all enemies that you stagger, which is any enemy you hit in the head, of course, and then additional cleave and additional impact on the first enemy hit. So all of this adds up to a very formidable melee attacker you're going to do a lot of melee damage with this build because the Arbites Shock Maul is so strong and because of these talents are so strong, but we're also providing a lot of utility to the team by the presence of the dog and all the buffs that he can provide, such as that additional damage reduction, such as the getting our Nuncio Aquila cooldown back up that much quicker. And that's the last piece of the EXODIA comp. So now that we know our pieces, let's just go over this one more time and talk about the interplay and the synergies between these groups and how you would optimally run this comp. So since the backbone of the comp is the Ogryn, the Ogrynheimer build, we want to be funneling all resources available to this character. This character should be receiving pretty much every pack of ammo on the map possible. They should be firing the grenade launcher very often. The only times they should be stopping firing the grenade launcher are to soften up enemies with the Bully Club because they are the applier for Skull Crusher on bosses. So the other classes are going to be relied upon to actually stagger the boss, or in the Arbites case, count as staggering the boss, and then the Ogryn opens them up for that extra damage taken, and then everybody else melts them down. Thunderous is also another great weakener. We've got combat ability regen and gunner damage resistance. This is all just straight combat stats on here. We want to make certain our taunt is up as often as possible. Remember that the taunt does make all enemies taunted take 25% base damage from all sources. So everyone should be playing around the Ogryn because he can provide extra damage taken to everything that's trying to kill him, which should be everything. The closer you play to the Ogryn, the better your damage potential is going to be, and the more damage he can do as well. He also should be receiving all the grenades. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but his Bombs Away is one of the most impactful grenades in the game. And of course, he does have Fire Away, which is going to apply burn stacks. The more tightly grouped enemies are, the more effective this class is and the easier your game is going to be. And this is just generally the strategy you should be employing. You should be pulling all enemies towards your team. You should be looking for tight quarters to take your fights in so that you get maximum efficacy out of your AoE ultimates, and also just, nuke everything down with your own AoE. So that is the Ogryn build, and that's his role in the team. We go over to talk about the Arbites. The Arbites' role in the team, as I said previously, is he is the primary melee damage dealer. He is sticking to those targets and just beating them down. He's disrupting the enemy formation by just getting in there and shoving and slamming and staggering. He is really not going to be taking very much ammo at all because this is such an ammo efficient ranged weapon. He is the primary reviver. If things go wrong, he should be looking to get a revive. You could also use the veteran to revive, but he does have the Nuncio Aquila ability, which he should be dropping anytime you are taking an encounter and you found yourself in a nice secure position. Drop that Aquila down and hold that position. Do not let the enemy rout you from it, because you're getting such a great benefit out of staying in that spot. And he is also utilizing his dog in order to remove the range threats who might be outside of that immediate area, so they can, they'll stop shooting us. His dog is electrocuting enemies, so he can lock down specific targets like Reapers and Bulwarks for removal. And of course, the dog and pounce targets are providing lots of toughness regeneration and toughness damage reduction for the whole team. He is just generally a very, very effective melee damage dealer, and he gets to provide a ton of utility at the same time. For the Chorus Zealot, again, his role is to float around the arena using his chorus and then looking to line himself up behind enemies and immediately get backstabs upon coming out of chorus. Look for enemies that are taunted by the Ogryn that are unable to face away from him, and then just run up behind them and stab them in the back. You should also be prioritizing knocking down purple enemies if there's any healers out there in the mix, and then when we're in a pinch and you get an opening, you can pull out your spearhead bolt gun and mag dump on the boss. But remember, you want to spend as much time as possible on that dueling sword, getting crits, getting backstabs to keep the choruses flowing. And use the chorus very, very, very often. Use it as often as you can, because it's going to be up absurdly fast, and you can use it to just completely pause every enemy. You are the line leader on this class. You are the initiator who gets into the arena first, because you are invulnerable, because no enemy is going to be able to hurt you through your chorus, and because also you have Until Death. You should be using your mobility to sprint into the arena and start your chorus, which will suppress all the ranged enemies, and then your team should come in afterwards and just start mopping up. And you can use the disruption caused by that to get your cooldowns back. So as the line leader, we start by engaging, by being the first person in, and then we move back to the center of the pack and just keep those choruses pulsing. For general utility stuff, we just want to make certain that everybody is getting at least one pulse, of course, so they have that gold buff, but more effective if you can get everybody that 5 pulses for the 30% additional damage, and then just keep backstabbing, and keep critting all the ding-dong day, and that will result in many, many wins for you. And the final piece of EXODIA is the veteran. A boring role for sure, but definitely an important role for the team. We are sticking to the center of the pack. We are using our ultimate on cooldown. Do not delay using your ultimate by even a single second. Don't be like, oh, I'll hold it for something else. Use it. Make certain that the gold toughness is staying on the bars at all times, because it can stack, and because gold toughness prevents catastrophic fuck-ups from happening. We're using our recon lasgun in order to just completely skip ever having to gather any ammo at all because of the shock trooper talent. So we're going to be super ammo self-sufficient. We are also using tons of revive speed and combat ability regen on here, which is going to allow us to be another great team saver. If someone goes down, we can shout and pick them back up in the blink of an eye. And down here we are using Survivalist, which is going to provide not only us, but the Ogryn and the Arbites lots of ranged ammo as well. And of course we're using our Shredder frag grenades, but remember that we are generating frag grenades off of Demolition stockpile and off of Demolition team, so we should not be picking up any packs of grenades. Those should be going squarely to the Ogryn. And if you do encounter a rogue pack of grenades that the Ogryn already is full on, you can either take them or try to pull some enemies towards you and let the Ogryn bombard them with those grenades to get kills for free. And finally, the last pieces to talk about is the focus target, which should be applied to large bosses and captains in order to give them that extra juice to burn them down. And that's the EXODIA composition, guys. I hope it sounds really cool. I have played with this a couple of times in the past, and man, when you have 4 people that know what they're doing on their classes, the game is absolutely trounced by this synergy, because you are just completely self-sufficient on resources. You're just insulated from damage at every turn, and this can definitely overcome the hardest stuff in the game. As I said before, any composition will do, right, as long as you have sufficient personal player skill. But I think this, by my approximation, would be the absolute strongest and most synergistic that a composition could be. And I hope that you guys are able to get some Havoc games together and run this stuff in the future. All right, guys, have a really good day. Mystery out. Bye.